If you want to learn how to stop living paycheck to paycheck, then make sure to watch this video because I'm going to cover the 9 things that I did that allowed me to break out of that paycheck to paycheck cycle. Now, the first thing that I did that helped me to break that paycheck to paycheck cycle was getting out of credit card debt. Now, if you've watched any of my previous videos, then you know that I was in debt in my 20s up until my early 30s. I remember stepping foot onto a college campus and signing up for my first credit card. I was a young kid that had a credit limit that allowed me to go into places, purchase an item, and leave without actually having to have the cash to pay for it. See, that's dangerous when we're able to do things like that, especially if you were never taught about finances. Now, I firmly believe that debt is the #1 killer of your ability to build long-term wealth, because once you get into that endless credit card cycle, it's extremely difficult to get out. I'll add a link to a previous video that I made that showed how I was finally able to get out of credit card debt, which got me one step closer to breaking that paycheck to paycheck cycle. Now, the second thing that I did was I actually started creating a monthly budget. This was something that I resisted doing for the longest time because I thought that I really didn't need it. I could keep track of what I was spending in my head. But as we all know, when you do something like that, at the end of the month, sometimes you have more month than you have money left over. And once I actually started tracking where my money was going, I was surprised. I was spending hundreds of dollars going out to eat. I was going out to the club. I was going out to the bar. I was going and buying clothes. I was spending money on things that I didn't even need to impress people that I didn't even like. So once I actually created a budget and actually started following it, it allowed me to actually see where my money was going, which allowed me to actually start prioritizing things that mattered the most to me. So if you find yourself in this paycheck to paycheck cycle, one thing that you can do is you can actually just start tracking what you spend over a 30 or a 60-day period. I bet you'll actually be surprised where your money is going, and you can actually start to make some small tweaks that will allow you to have more money in your pocket to spend on things that you actually need versus the things that you want. Now, the third thing that I stopped doing that allowed me to stop living paycheck to paycheck is I started investing in myself. So once I broke down and finally started putting a budget together, I actually added a line item to that budget, and I called that line item Pay Yourself First. And what that actually means is that I would allocate money from every one of my paychecks that I would then use to invest in myself. And I would invest in things such as books or in courses, or I would just put that money in a separate account and I would use that for anything that would allow me to self-improve. So if there's anything that you want to do currently or in the near future that will allow you to self-improve, start allocating some money that will allow you to actually pursue some of those things that will help you improve. So one of the things that I actually really like to do is I like to invest in purchasing books. So if you are interested in self-improving, maybe start there. Grab some books, and if it's from a financial perspective, I can give you 2 book recommendations. One is The Millionaire Next Door, and the other is The Psychology of Money. Now, the fourth thing that I did is I started to minimize the impact of lifestyle creep. And what I mean by that is every year when I would get a raise or a bonus, I would go out and I would actually just go and blow it on things that I can't even remember. It would either be clothes or going out or things that I actually still don't even have to this day. And one of the biggest changes that I did is whenever I got a raise or a bonus, I would then increase my 401k contribution maybe by 1%. Or I would take some of that money and I would invest it in a Roth IRA. Or I would take some of that money and invest it in my own personal brokerage account. What I was doing is I was keeping my living expenses exactly the same no matter how much additional money that I started to make. And that was one of the biggest things that helped me to actually stop living paycheck to paycheck, because I wasn't going out and buying additional things above and beyond what I was normally purchasing. So whenever I started to make more money, I was still spending the same amount every single month. So this is a tip for the people out there that want to keep up with the Joneses. Do not let lifestyle creep prevent you from getting out of that paycheck to paycheck cycle. So the next thing that I did to help me get out of that paycheck to paycheck cycle is I stopped leaving so much money in a savings account. So I started investing early and often. So I got my first real job whenever I was about 25 or 26 years old. And since that time, I have participated in my company's 401k. I have a Roth IRA account, and I also have a brokerage account that I invest in. I know that there are many people that do not believe in 401ks or Roth IRAs, and that's completely fine. What I'm saying is investing early and often will allow compound interest to actually help you multiply your money much faster than leaving it in a savings account. Now, the sixth thing that I did was I started to implement side hustles. Now, I started out doing things such as selling things on Amazon and on eBay. And then I eventually got my real estate license, which allowed me to actually sell houses on the side. And what I would do is I would use that money to actually pay towards things such as my mortgage principal, or paying down or paying off a car that I had at that time. So being able to bring in any additional income will allow you to pay off either debts that you have, or it will help you to just be able to keep more money in your pocket that you can use to invest instead of spending on things that you don't even need. Now, if you're interested in starting a side hustle, but you're not sure which one might work best for you, I'll leave a link to a video that I previously made where I covered side hustles that can allow you to earn $3,000 a month or more in your spare time. Now, the seventh thing that I did that allowed me to get out of that paycheck to paycheck cycle is I made sure that when I bought my house that I was not spending more than 25% of my take-home pay on my mortgage. Now, I've owned one house prior to the house that I'm in now, and both of those houses were well under 25% of my monthly take-home pay. And I did that for one particular reason. I did not want to be house poor. I know so many people that actually will go out and they will get approved for a mortgage that may be up to 50% of their take-home pay, and they fall in love with the house, they buy the house, and then once they're in the house, they're what I would consider house poor. You could pay your mortgage, but you can't really do anything else. And that's something that I wanted to make sure that I avoided. Now, if you're in the market to buy a house, I would suggest that you do not buy a house that will exceed 25% of your monthly take-home pay. Now, if you are someone that is already in a house and it is costing you 40 to 50 to 60% or more of your monthly take-home pay, my suggestion would be is to either A, make more money that will allow you to bring that ratio down some, or consider selling that house. Now, the next thing that I did that allowed me to stop living paycheck to paycheck is stop buying new cars. Now, this is something that I continuously work on, and I'm working on this today because I'm someone that likes to buy new cars, and I would typically trade them in every 2 to 3 years max, and that's something that I'm really trying to work on. The current car that I have right now is paid off. I've had it for about 3.5 years. I don't plan to make any changes, but at any point in time, I guess I could backslide.
Sure about that? You sure about that?
One of the biggest things that I always made sure that I did whenever I was buying a car is I tried to keep that to no more than 15% of my monthly take-home pay. Now, I will admit, buying cars is probably not the best decision for most people, especially if you're buying them every 2 to 3 years. Now, I will say that getting in and out of cars every 2 to 3 years was absolutely the reason that I was a little bit slower on my wealth building journey. But you know, that's okay because we all have our vices. And if we can identify what those are, we can work to fix those. And the next thing that helped me to stop living paycheck to paycheck was I did not spend a ton of money getting my education. Whenever I got my undergraduate degree, it cost me around $30,000 for the entire 4-year program, which today I know that there are some colleges that's how much it costs a semester or even a year, which to me is absolutely crazy. And then when I went on to get my MBA, the company that I was working for at that time actually paid 100% of the cost for me to pursue my MBA. So I took advantage of that. So if you are someone that is about to go to college, or you've been out of school for a while and you're thinking about going back to college, one thing that I would recommend that you look into is that you take a look at community or junior colleges for the first 2 years or so where you can complete your electives at a much lower cost before transferring to a larger traditional 4-year institution. It'll allow you to save so much money, and once you graduate, you won't have that student loan debt hanging around your neck. Now, if you are someone that is not interested in going to college and you're looking to jump right into a career field, but you're not sure which career you want to jump into, make sure to check out this video where I go over 10 careers that are paying more than a national average that will allow you to jump into a career and avoid having to repay tons of student debt.